Ethan Hale had everything money could buy: power, fame, and a penthouse view that touched the clouds. What he didn't have was patience, especially for children. To him, kids were chaos, loud, messy, unpredictable, everything his perfectly controlled life despised, until her. When a new marketing director, Clara Evans, walked into his company with two 5-year-old twins, Ethan's world cracked. They weren't supposed to be there, the laughter echoing down his marble halls. The tiny hands touching the desk where billion-dollar deals were made, but something about their eyes familiar. Warm, disarmed the man who had sworn he'd never care. What began as irritation soon turned into a battle he never expected, a fight not for profit, not for pride, but for love, and the hearts of two little souls who might just teach him what family truly means. Ethan Hale's mornings ran like stock market clocks, precise, predictable, profitable. By 6 a.m., his espresso machine hissed. By 6:15, his driver idled outside the glass tower of Hale Enterprises. The only sound Ethan tolerated was the shuffle of pressed suits and the hum of efficiency. Children were never part of that soundscape. To him, they were tiny storms, disorder wrapped in noise. He'd built his billion-dollar empire on logic, not lullabies. Cancel the charity meeting with the Children's Hospital, he told his assistant, Ava, without looking up from his tablet. They wanted to discuss a sponsorship, sir. Then they can send a proposal. I don't do sing-alongs. That was Ethan Hale, the man whose heart beat only for contracts and quarterly earnings. The elevator chimed open on the 22nd floor. The moment he stepped out, his controlled world faltered. Laughter high-pitched, free. Two small figures raced down the marble hallway, giggling, their sneakers squeaking against polished stone. One bumped into his leg. A pair of wide brown eyes stared up at him. Sorry, mister, you're really tall. Ethan froze, staring down like he'd just been ambushed by aliens. The second child appeared, a mirror image of the first. Twins, a boy and a girl. Same curls, same sparkle. Who let them in here? Ethan barked. Before anyone could answer, a woman rushed forward, clipboard in one hand, apology in her eyes. I'm so sorry, Mr. Hale. They shouldn't have. He turned, irritation flashing into shock. Clara Evans. She blinked, startled that he remembered. Yes, I'm the new marketing director. My nanny canceled last minute, and I had no choice but to. He cut her off. This is a corporate office, not a daycare. Her jaw tightened, voice steady. I know, sir. It won't happen again. She ushered the twins away, but one of them, the girl, looked back at him with a grin that tugged somewhere he didn't know existed. Hours later, Ethan couldn't focus. The twins' laughter replayed in his head like a forbidden song. He caught himself staring at the office door, half expecting them to burst through again. When the workday ended, he saw Clara waiting by the elevator with the kids, juggling a laptop bag and a pink lunchbox. Long day, he asked, surprising even himself. Her eyes widened slightly. The CEO, who never spoke without reason, was making conversation. Long, yes, but I'm used to it. The little boy tugged her hand. Mommy, is that your boss? Ethan's chest tightened. Mommy. She smiled softly. Yes, sweetheart, that's Mr. Hale. The boy tilted his head. He looks grumpy. Clara's eyes went wide, mortified. Ethan's mouth twitched a half smile. The first in years. That night, alone in his penthouse, Ethan poured himself a glass of scotch and stared at the city lights. He had spent years building walls of glass, steel, and silence, and today 2 children had cracked them in seconds. He hated the feeling, vulnerability, warmth, confusion, all mixed into one. He told himself it was nothing, just another distraction. But deep down, he knew better. Because in those 2 small faces, he'd seen something he hadn't in a long time. Innocence that didn't want anything from him. And as the rain began to fall against his window, Ethan Hale, the CEO who hated children, whispered the truth he'd never admit aloud. I don't even know why I can't stop thinking about them. 3 days later, Ethan Hale was in the middle of a board meeting when something unfamiliar appeared on the large projection screen. Instead of the usual quarterly growth charts, there was color, animation, a campaign mock-up filled with laughter, balloons, and smiling children. His brows furrowed. What is this? Clara Evans, seated at the far end of the table, stood with quiet confidence. Our next product line, the Family Future Initiative. We're expanding the brand into a more human space. Real connections, not just luxury. Luxury is what we sell. Ethan cut in sharply. Yes, she said calmly, but people buy luxury from companies they trust. Families, not faceless names. The room went silent. Ethan leaned back, studying her. The same woman whose children had turned his office upside down now stood before him. Fearless and brilliant. He wanted to argue, but her pitch was airtight. After the meeting, he found her in the break room, pouring coffee with tired hands. "You have a lot of nerve," he said, walking in. She didn't flinch. "You hired me for that." He almost smiled. "Your idea was bold. Unnecessary, but bold." "Unnecessary," she laughed softly. "You don't believe families matter." Ethan hesitated. "They're messy. Unpredictable. A risk." She glanced toward the window. "So is happiness?" The words hit him harder than he expected. Before he could reply, two small figures appeared by the door. The twins again. "Mommy, we drew you something." They ran in, waving crayon drawings. Clara froze, embarrassment coloring her face. "I told you to wait with Mrs. Thomas," she whispered. "It's okay," Ethan said quietly. He crouched the powerful CEO, kneeling in an Armani suit, and looked at the pictures. Two stick figures holding hands under a big sun. "That's you?" he asked the boy. The boy grinned. "That's you. You're tall. See the tie?" Ethan blinked. "Me." The girl giggled. "Mommy said you help lots of people." Clara's face flushed. "I said he helps the company. That's all." But Ethan wasn't listening. For the first time in years, someone had drawn him, not in a newspaper headline, not in an investor magazine, but as someone who mattered. Later that evening, Clara stopped by his office. "I hope they didn't bother you, Mr. Hale." "They didn't," he said softly, eyes still on the drawings pinned to his desk lamp. "They're good kids. They've been through a lot," she said quietly. "Their father passed away 2 years ago." The words hit him like a silent bullet. He looked up, his voice unsteady. "I'm sorry." She nodded. "Thank you." For a long moment, silence filled the space. Not awkward, just real. Ethan finally asked, "Why come back to work so soon?" "Because," she said, "kids need more than love. They need stability. And I'm the only one who can give it to them." He admired her strength, the way her voice trembled but didn't break. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Clara's tired smile, the twins' drawings, the sound of their laughter echoing in sterile hallways. He'd spent years avoiding anything that reminded him of family. Ever since his own parents' bitter divorce had turned him into a man who believed love was a liability. But now, two little strangers and a woman with fire in her heart were tearing down walls he'd spent decades building. The next morning, something unexpected happened. When he entered his office, two small lunchboxes sat on his desk. A sticky note read, "You forgot your smile yesterday." The twins. A laugh escaped him before he could stop it. His assistant, Ava, peeked in. "Wide-eyed, sir. Are you laughing?" He cleared his throat. "No. Just get me the campaign files." But as she left, he looked back at the lunchboxes and muttered under his breath, "Maybe they're not so bad." Later that day, Clara walked into his office holding a report. Her eyes widened when she saw the lunchboxes still there. "You kept them." "I'm evaluating their design quality," he said dryly. She smiled, the kind of smile that made the coldest room feel human. "You're impossible." "Efficient," he corrected. "Cold," she countered playfully. For a heartbeat, the air between them shifted, less boss and employee, more to broken people recognizing something familiar. Before she left, the twins peeked in again, waving, "Bye, Mr. Hale." He waved back awkwardly, but genuinely. And for the first time in a very long time, Ethan Hale didn't hate the sound of children's laughter. The office changed after that week, not publicly, not officially, but something invisible had shifted. Hale Enterprises, known for its cold corridors and quiet tension, now echoed occasionally with laughter. Tiny, contagious laughter that even the most stoic executives couldn't resist smiling at. Ethan Hale, the man who once banned employee birthday decorations, now found himself slowing down in the mornings, hoping, though he'd never admit it, to catch a glimpse of the twins before Clara dropped them off at daycare. He didn't understand it. He didn't want to, but when the little boy, Noah, waved at him with both hands like an overexcited fan, Ethan's heart tripped. And when the little girl, Nora, offered him a flower made from folded sticky notes, he forgot the meaning of deadlines for a full minute. Clara noticed. During meetings, she'd catch Ethan glancing at the kids' drawings pinned behind his desk, reminders of warmth in a world built on glass and steel. One afternoon, as they reviewed a new ad concept, she teased him, "You're letting them win, you know." He raised an eyebrow. "Win what?" Her smile was soft, amused. "Your heart?" Ethan smirked, but there was truth in her tone that unsettled him. There. Persistent, he admitted. Children usually are, she said. They don't judge. They just love who shows up. Her words lingered. That night, he thought about them as he sat alone in his penthouse, the silence now feeling heavier than before. A few days later, Clara was late picking up the twins from daycare. A meeting had run long, and rain drenched the city. Ethan, passing by in his car, noticed two small figures by the building entrance, huddled under a too small umbrella. He stopped the car before his mind could argue. Noah, Nora, he called, stepping out. Their eyes widened. Mr. Hale, he crouched to their level. Where's your mom? She's coming, Nora said. The teacher said she's on her way. We waited 'cause mommy said not to move. The rain soaked through his suit, but he didn't care. He opened the car door. Get in, we'll wait for her together. They hesitated, just for a moment, then climbed inside. The boy's small voice broke the silence. Mr. Hale, do you have kids? Ethan's chest tightened. No. Why not? He paused. I never thought I'd be good at it. Nora tilted her head. You're already good at it. He turned to her, startled. What makes you say that? She smiled shyly. You waited for us. When Clara finally arrived, breathless and drenched, she found them in the car, laughing at Ethan's failed attempt to draw a dog on the fogged window. I'm so sorry, she gasped. Traffic was, it's fine. He interrupted gently. We stayed dry. The twins hugged her legs. She looked at him, really looked, and something in her chest shifted. He wasn't the man she thought he was. Not anymore. The next morning, she found a small package on her desk. Inside were 3 brand new raincoats, 2 tiny, 1 her size. A note read, No one waits in the rain alone. She blinked back tears, a smile breaking through. From that day, Ethan began joining their lunch breaks. At first, it was strictly professional, until it wasn't. He'd bring fruit cups, then sandwiches. Then somehow, he was laughing with them, forgetting for a brief moment that he was supposed to hate this. Clara watched him from across the table, warmth softening her guarded heart. He'd changed. Slowly, quietly. One afternoon, Nora fell asleep in his office chair, tiny arms wrapped around his arm. Ethan froze, afraid to move, afraid to wake her. Clara whispered from the doorway. You can put her down, you know? He shook his head. She's fine, she smiled. You're going to spoil her? His voice was low, rough. Maybe she deserves that. Later that night, when everyone had left, Ethan sat alone in the dim office. The twins' laughter echoed in his memory, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel empty. He'd once built walls to protect himself from love. Now he realized those walls had kept it out, and maybe, just maybe, Clara Evans and her twins were the ones meant to tear them down. Ethan Hale didn't believe in destiny. He believed in data, discipline, and decisions. But lately, every time he saw Clara Evans' name pop up on his phone, his heartbeat disagreed. He didn't know what this was. Admiration, curiosity, something dangerous, but it had begun to seep into every corner of his carefully controlled life, and he couldn't stop it. That Friday evening, the office was nearly empty. Only one light glowed in the design wing, Clara's. He found her sitting alone, eyes red from exhaustion, papers scattered across the desk. The twins had fallen asleep on the sofa behind her, their small forms curled up under his company's branded jackets. Still here? He asked softly, leaning against the doorframe. Clara jumped slightly, then smiled tiredly. Deadline. The pitch is Monday. Ethan stepped closer, his voice gentler than usual. It can wait until morning. She shook her head. It never can. He studied her, the curve of her jaw, the tired defiance in her eyes. You're not just working for the project, are you? She froze. Something flickered across her expression, fear, hesitation, and something deeper. He lowered his voice. What's really going on, Clara? She stared at the twins for a long moment before answering. When I got this job, she whispered, I promised myself I'd never depend on anyone again. Not after what happened. Ethan waited. My ex walked out when I was pregnant. Said he wasn't ready to be a father. I raised them alone. Every bill, every fever, every sleepless night. It was all me. Her voice broke slightly. And I swore I'd never need another man to save me. Ethan's chest tightened. He'd seen strength before in boardrooms, in battlefields of business, but never like this. He wanted to tell her she didn't have to fight alone anymore, but he didn't. Not yet. Later that night, after she left with the twins, he sat alone in his office and couldn't focus on a single number or chart. All he saw was her. The quiet strength in her voice, the way she hid her pain behind smiles. The way her children's laughter seemed to light her from within, and the realization hit him harder than any deal ever had. He was falling for her, completely. Days passed, and the line between work and emotion blurred. He found excuses to check on her projects, to review reports that didn't need his attention, and when Clara laughed, really laughed, he caught himself smiling like a fool. The staff started whispering. The CEO, who once terrified everyone, now smiled when a certain marketing manager walked in. But just as things began to feel like something beautiful, the past returned, uninvited. One afternoon, Ethan walked into the lobby and froze. A man stood there, late 30s, smug smile, expensive suit that didn't quite hide the arrogance beneath. He was holding a child's toy car, one of the twins. "Can I help you?" Ethan asked sharply. The man smirked. "Looking for Clara Evans." Ethan's stomach tightened. "And you are her ex," the man said casually. "Father of those kids you've been playing guardian to." Clara appeared seconds later, eyes wide with shock. "Ryan, what are you doing here?" Ryan shrugged. "Came to see my kids. And maybe to see if you're still pretending you don't need help." Ethan's fists clenched at his sides. "You left her when she needed you most." Ryan turned toward him, grin widening. "And who are you supposed to be? Her boss, or her new charity project?" The lobby fell silent. Ethan's jaw tightened. "I'm the man who actually shows up." The confrontation ended when Clara stepped between them. "Enough, both of you," she shouted, tears in her voice. She turned to Ethan, eyes shining with a mix of anger and heartbreak. "You shouldn't have gotten involved." And then she left. That night, Ethan sat in his penthouse again, the silence louder than ever. He wanted to fix it, to tell her he didn't mean to cross a line, but he didn't know where that line was anymore. Was it between boss and employee, between protector and lover, between two broken people who had accidentally become each other's hope? He didn't know. All he knew was that he couldn't lose her. Not now. Not after finally learning what love might feel like. At the same time, Clara sat on her apartment floor, twins asleep beside her, staring at her phone. Ethan's name glowed on the screen, unread, waiting. She couldn't bring herself to open it, because every time she looked at him, she saw the risk, the pain of falling for someone who could walk away, just like Ryan did. And yet, she couldn't deny the truth. Ethan Hale had done more for her and her children in months than Ryan ever had in years. Maybe he wasn't like the man she feared. Maybe he was the man she'd been waiting for. As midnight fell, 2 messages sat unsent. Ethan's draft: "I shouldn't have stepped in like that, but I can't watch you get hurt again." Clara's draft: "You didn't do anything wrong. I just don't know how to let someone care about me." Neither message was sent, but both of them knew something had changed forever. 3 days. That's how long Ethan Hale went without seeing Clara or the twins. 3 days of silence that echoed louder than any corporate failure ever had. 3 days of wondering if the warmth they'd built had vanished into the same emptiness that used to rule his world. He tried to distract himself with meetings, mergers, and numbers, but every laugh that echoed down a hallway reminded him of the 2 small voices that used to call his name. He'd built his empire on control. Now, he was losing sleep over love. On the 4th day, he couldn't take it anymore. He drove to Clara's apartment, not in his black company car, not with his usual confidence, but with the nerves of a man about to confess everything. The city lights flickered over his windshield as rain began to fall. By the time he reached her building, he was drenched, but he didn't care. He climbed the stairs 2 at a time and knocked. Clara opened the door, eyes widening. "Ethan, what are you?" "I needed to see you," he said quickly. "Please, just listen." The twins peeked from behind her legs, clutching their stuffed animals. Their eyes softened when they saw him, especially Lily, who smiled shyly. Ethan knelt down. "Hey, princess. I missed your drawings." She giggled. "Mommy said you're busy." He smiled faintly. "Maybe too busy for everything except you two." Clara's eyes softened, but only for a second. She motioned for the twins to go to their room. As soon as they were gone, she turned back. "Ethan, you shouldn't be here." "Why not?" "Because it's complicated," she said. "Ryan came back. He wants to be in their lives. I don't know what's right anymore." Ethan's expression darkened. "He's playing you, Clara. You know that." Tears welled up in her eyes. "And if he's not, if he's changed, people like him don't change overnight," Ethan said quietly. "But even if he did, ask yourself this: where was he when you needed him most?" She said nothing. He stepped closer, his voice soft. "I don't care if you never forgive me for stepping in that day, but I can't stand by and watch someone hurt you again." Clara's lip trembled. "Why do you care so much?" He stopped, then exhaled shakily. Because I love you, Clara. And not just you, those kids. All of it. You three walked into my life and showed me what it means to feel again. The silence after that was unbearable. Clara's tears finally fell. Ethan, you don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. She turned away. You hate chaos. You hate children. You built walls around your life for a reason. He stepped closer, gently taking her hand. Then maybe you were meant to break them. Before she could respond, there was a knock at the door. Ryan, he walked in without waiting, holding flowers. Cheap ones. Forced smile. Well, isn't this cozy? He said. The billionaire and the damsel. Clara stiffened. Ryan, please. Ryan cut her off. You think he cares about your kids? About you. He's just bored. This is a game to him. Ethan's eyes darkened. You've said enough. Ryan smirked. I'm their father. You don't get to tell me. Ethan stepped forward, voice like steel. A father shows up. A father protects. A father earns love. You did none of that. Ryan's jaw clenched, but before he could respond, Clara spoke, voice trembling but strong. Stop. Both men turned toward her. I'm done being fought over, she said firmly. This isn't about pride or money, it's about what's real. She looked at Ryan. You had your chance. You left. The twins deserve better. Then she turned to Ethan, eyes full of something raw and real. And you showed me that better exists. Ryan stormed out, slamming the door. Ethan stood still, unsure what to do, until Clara reached for his hand. That night, for the first time in years, Ethan didn't feel like a CEO. He felt human. He sat on the couch with the twins asleep between them. Clara leaned her head against his shoulder. They adore you, you know, she whispered. He smiled faintly. They're the first people who ever taught me how to love without conditions. She looked up at him. And me. He met her gaze. You taught me how to deserve it. Weeks passed, and the transformation in Ethan was undeniable. He no longer hid behind his office walls. His staff noticed the change. The CEO, who once hated distractions, now kept a drawing of two stick figures labeled me and Mr. Ethan on his desk at the company's annual gala. Clara stood beside him, not as an employee, but as something far more personal. When he gave his speech that night, his voice carried more warmth than any business announcement before. I used to believe success meant power. Now I know it means something else entirely. The people who make you want to come home. The audience clapped, but his eyes stayed on her. Later, as the night quieted, Clara whispered, So, does this mean you don't hate children anymore? He laughed softly. Hate them. I built my life around, too. Her eyes softened. And me. He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You're the reason I learned how. And somewhere in the back of the room, two tiny voices giggled. Mommy and Mr. Ethan are holding hands. Ethan laughed, a sound full of joy, of peace. Of the life he never thought he'd have. For the first time, he wasn't running from love. He was home. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartwarming millionaire family romance stories. Sometimes, the coldest hearts just need a reason to feel again, and the smallest hands can heal the deepest scars. Comment below. Do you believe people like Ethan can truly change for love? Hashtag millionaire love story, hashtag family drama, hashtag second chance romance, heart touching story, hashtag emotional CEO, hashtag hidden wins, hashtag love redemption, hashtag billionaire romance, hashtag YouTube story, hashtag emotional short film.